Welcome to this week's lecture on developmentally appropriate practices, also known as DAP, in the encouraging classroom. I am going to minimize myself, get rid of myself so you can focus purely on the slides. Okay, so what is DAP? It is a position statement from the National Association for the Education of Young Children, also known as NAEYC, which outlines the best practices for working with children birth to 8. It really came out of the movement to narrow the achievement gap. The achievement gap is a term used to describe the space where between children who do well in school and those who fall behind. So oftentimes the children that we're talking about that fall into this achievement gap are Latino students, really students of color, children from poverty, can be special needs children, immigrant children. And so this wanted to look at what are the best, highest quality practices that we can agree on as an industry standard for working with young children. So I put the link here. You can just Google search NAEYC developmentally appropriate practice and it will come up. But I briefly want to click the link and give you a quick glimpse of what that looks like. So here is that position statement. It's on the NAEYC website, and you can go to the complete position statement. You can read it in Spanish, which is fantastic. You can also look at a condensed version of the key messages of the position statement. It's a lot smaller, but also doesn't have the depth. But gives you an overall. And then they have it in book form that you can order. Many of you probably have this at the centers and schools that you teach at. It's a common book to have on the shelves, and it really is the industry standard for working with children in our area of birth to 8. So what are the key elements of DAP? So the most important part of this, I believe, is that it speaks to how teacher practices must be appropriate to each child's age and development, their unique individual traits, and their socio-cultural context. Meaning one size fits all doesn't fit most. You really need to think about, yes, what is this child's age? How are they developing at their age? Because it may be slightly different. We all know that 4-year-old who's in a very different place than another 4-year-old in the class. So that's the individual piece of this, as looking at their age and development, where they should be for their age, how they are uniquely developing, how does the individual trajectory contribute, and then the sociocultural context. So the example I like to use for this is, we live here in Colorado, right? And in our state, it's pretty dry, relatively dry state. We have some reservoirs and some lakes and a few rivers and streams, but we're pretty dry, arid climate. So, sorry, got stuck on my words. I frequently see in classrooms the idea of ocean for 3-year-olds as a unit of study. And I think about the socio-cultural context of our children. Are they going to an ocean? Are they spending time in an ocean? Not so much, but they are surrounded by a more mountainous environment. And so we want to really think about the cultural context that children live in, and it really makes more sense to plan units of study around the mountain climate here in our mountain community than it really is the ocean, because that is the socio-cultural context of our children. Likewise, if you think about children living in Denver, and then you think of children living in, say, Alamosa, very different contexts, right? Denver is very urban, and Alamosa is plains and more rural. So the kind of curriculum that we're bringing to those children based on their individual lives should really be quite different. We want to be really thinking about the immediate environment surrounding the children and their everyday experiences. Second point is that goals need to be challenging and achievable. And this you hear a lot about in our field. It's important to give children the right amount of challenge. We want to give them some challenge to have a bar to reach, but we don't want to overshoot that so they feel failed and unsuccessful. So we constantly need to be thinking about what's that next little step to push a child to that's not over their limits. Goes back to Erikson, right? And being able to feel achievement so that one does not feel inferior, right? The industry versus inferiority. So practices are based on research and knowledge. This is really important. Sometimes we fall into the trap in our field where we say, we do it this way because we've always done it that way. Well, DAP says that is not a reason to do something. A reason to do something is because it is based on research and knowledge, and research might be changing. Our body of knowledge is changing. Therefore, we need to adapt our practices based on current research and knowledge in the field. It was once believed that hitting children with rulers in school was okay. Research and our body of knowledge have changed over the years to tell us that that actually is not good for children, and we shouldn't keep doing it because we have a history of always doing it. Curriculum is integrated and relates to all domains. This is to really ensure that children are holistically taught, so they have all areas of development met, not just the academics, but the social emotional and the physical, and all of those things come together, and then it's woven throughout the curriculum. And it's not just you get science in the science area, but where does science come into block play, or where does it come into dramatic play, that kind of thing. There should be a balance of child-guided and teacher-directed activities, that those things need to come together, that it shouldn't be just teachers teaching in a lecture style or a teacher-driven style all the time, and children shouldn't just be given free rein all the time. There needs to be a balance between them. Of course, play is an avenue for learning. It is the strongest avenue for learning for the children we teach. It is play is their work, as Maria Montessori taught us. Teacher-child interactions are the most powerful determinant in the classroom. What makes classrooms successful is how teachers interact with children in a supportive manner, in an engaging manner, in a way that meets our first statement around the child's age and development, their unique individual traits, and their socio-cultural context. And then lastly, teachers must be intentional in their practices. It's not okay just to do it because it's fun, or just the children like it, so that's why. There needs to be more of a reason. Sure, children like it is important, but it needs to be coupled with how does it continue their learning. Likewise, doing something in your classroom just because you like it is also not intentional. So you can go on Pinterest and you can find these really cute, fun, craftsy ideas because you like them. But what you really need to think about in your practice is, how does it intentionally teach children, grow them, connect with who they are right now, and move them to the next phase? So one way to create developmentally appropriate practice is to have learning centers. Really common in early childhood environments that our spaces are broken up into centers. Doesn't have to be this format, but it is a really common format that we use. So learning centers promote interactions that develop pro-social behavior and democratic life skills. Children are working together, bumping into each other in this little community of the classroom. They have a chance to try out skills and develop their behavior in the classroom as they go. It allows for high engagement of children. It goes back to Piaget and Vygotsky and this constructivist tradition where children construct knowledge together and based on responsivity from the environment. We want to shift the focus towards child-centered curriculum and classroom, not teacher-centered. Like I talked about in the last slide, this isn't, because I like to do it, because it's fun for me, because it's a cute thing that makes me feel fulfilled. It's really more about what is going to resonate with the children. And then the physical environment is really an essential part of this curriculum. The spaces need to be carefully planned and considered in this physical environment, and they need to be responsive to the development of the children. I can't tell you how many times at the beginning of a school year I set up what I thought was the perfect, most ideal classroom. And within a month, it was really clear that it was not working for this group of children, and I had to move things around to make it the best environment for them. So the curriculum is also integrated. It incorporates all domains. And I talked about this, excuse me, in the first slide, where we need to make sure we're holistically approaching children's development. We want to make sure that this is, ideal for center-based learning. It promotes active learning and high engagement, and it builds the connections between the content and the development. It helps promote democratic life skills, and it allows for children of any learning style, going back to Gardner's theory of multiple intelligences, it allows that all children to engage however they learn. So your next step is you're going to go look at the science project packet in preparation for your activities packet. So go take a look at that. It was created by Anne Marie, who is another educator at Front Range, and it comes out of some work she did in one of her classrooms. So go ahead and take a look at that, and I hope to see you all on the discussion boards.